Hey there, home labbers and engineers. FE Engineer here. Today we're going to look at getting large language models running on a Linux installation. If you're using an AMD GPU, you will need AMD's ROCm installed. But let's take a look at what we need to do and let's get some large language models running. We're actually going to use a web interface known as text-generation-webui from Ubabooga. It looks and acts fairly similar to Automatic 1111 for Stable Diffusion. It is pretty easy to get up and running, even on AMD GPUs. It is pretty straightforward. So let's take a look and let's go. If you need to install AMD's ROCm, be aware that it is roughly 20 gigabytes in size. Also, be aware that the large language models, most of them range from about 5 to 10 gigs in size. And so you will eat up quite a bit of hard drive fairly quickly. But along with that, let's take a look at installing AMD's ROCm. If you already have ROCm installed, or if you have followed my guides for running Stable Diffusion, go ahead and skip this part, as it is going to effectively only be about ROCm. In order to get ROCm up and running, the first thing we will do is sudo apt update. After that, you will need to run a command to install get python 3 pip, python 3 venv, python 3 dev, libstdc++. After that, run update one more time. Then we're going to wget the AMD GPU installer. The wget command just simply downloads a file from effectively this place on the internet. Now that we've got it installed, we need to effectively install that Debian package. And the command for that is sudo apt install and then / this amdgpu.deb. Once you have done that, all that you actually need to do is run this relatively simple command, sudo amdgpu-install usecase graphics and ROCm. Once those things have been installed, you will need to run these two commands. These two commands give your current user access to the video and the render groups, which are used for ROCm and also graphics. Once you have done that, you will need to actually reboot your machine. Sudo reboot will work. Now that ROCm has been installed and you have rebooted your machine, you should be able to type ROCm info. And it should print out a ton of information. And you should be able to find your graphics card inside of this information. For me, Agent 2 right here is this GFX 1100, and it is my RX 7900 XTX. You should be able to find something like that. If you are familiar with Linux, you can feel free and grep for whatever you feel like, and you can slim down the results that way. But this just tells you that ROCm is in fact running. It does see your graphics card, and you should be all good to go. So now inside of our terminal prompt, we're simply going to make a directory, and maybe we'll call it GPT. So now that we have a GPT directory, ls will see GPT. We're going to cd into GPT, and we are going to now start installing the text-generation-webui. In order to clone the repository, we're simply going to type get clone and then paste in the repository that we're going to grab. So here it is. If we look now, there is a folder called text-generation-webui. cd into that, and it is a pretty straightforward install from here. Inside of the text generation webui folder, we're going to type python 3-m venv. Then we are going to source venv bin activate. So this puts us inside of our virtual environment. We're going to install Torch, and we're going to use ROCm 5.6. ROCm 5.7 is sort of out, but it's not fully supported yet, and it is still on nightly builds, so you can certainly try ROCm 5.7 version of PyTorch. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've had it both working and not working, so you can, well, your mileage may vary. 5.6 is stable and does work though. Now that we have the correct version of Torch already installed, there is a specific installer if you have no AVX. However, most people probably do, but just know that if you run into AVX problems, there is a specifically different requirements for no AVX. Now that everything is installed, we're going to create our own launch script. We're going to call it launch.sh. You should open up an empty file like this. Your launch file should end up looking like this. The first line says that bash is the way that we're going to run this file. Source venv bin activate. Make sure that we're in our virtual environment. Hip visible devices equals 0. Make sure that it uses your discrete graphics card. If you have an AMD Ryzen CPU that also has an integrated GPU, that integrated GPU absolutely cannot run ROCm and it will crash. Setting this export hip visible devices effectively makes sure that ROCm and hip don't look at your integrated GPU and try to use that. HSA override GFX version, I'm running an RDNA 3 card, which is the 7900 XTX. And for that card specifically, the version is 11.0.0. If you're running an RDNA 2 card, you should put 10.3.0 in here. And then this last line just runs our server. Go ahead and save the file, exit out. And then we're going to run a sudo chmod +x launch.sh. This effectively makes it so this file can execute. And then after that, all you should need to do is type // and then launch.sh. You'll see that it is running on a local URL. Over here on Hugging Face, you will see just the Hugging Face models page. And from here, what we are actually looking for is down here in natural language processing. We're looking for text generation. Go ahead and click on that. And then you will see tons of models showing up. So the way large language models are effectively classified, you will almost always see a something B parameter. 7B, for example, says it was trained on 7 billion parameters. 13B is about double the size. 34B is about triple the size of that. The higher of a B number, the more parameters it was trained on, so the better of a model it is in general, but also the more VRAM it will take just to load it up. I would start with a 7B model, and just so that you are aware, these things range in size from 5 to 10 gigabytes each. In order to download and load any of the models, all that you need to do from inside of the text generation web UI, click on the model button. And as you'll see right now, I don't have any models available. All you need to do is copy from Hugging Face the little button up here that will tell you exactly which model it is, paste it in here into text generation web UI, and hit the download button. But remember, these models are quite large. They are many gigabytes. Once your model has downloaded, you should be able to hit the reload button here, and you should end up seeing your model available. And this is where things get a bit tricky. So the very first thing you should do, just run it as transformers. Don't change anything in here. Don't do anything at all. And just click the load button. You may end up seeing some sort of problems. Every single one of these models, these loaders that you see, there's a whole bunch of different ways to load in the models, and these are effectively wrappers. And every single one of them with every single model will end up being a bit of a trial and error setup. Now, sometimes you'll just get errors and you'll just be able to effectively make some changes, try things differently, and reload. Other times the core will dump. If the core dumps, you will have to actually run your launch script all over again to reload. For this, the bloke wizard vicuna 7b, I have it just on transformers. I changed compute d type to float 32. I changed quant type to FP4. And I clicked the disable EX-llama kernel. And when I loaded it that way, it loaded in just fine. So you'll see a message, successfully loaded. Go over here to chat. Give it a prompt. Tell me about yourself. It was getting 23 tokens a second. Write me a story. $36 tokens a second. Write me a longer story. Now, one of the things that you'll notice very quickly when working with these models is that they may just kind of cut off. You'll often see that it cuts off at around 199 or 200 tokens. That is because of parameters. I will say that in order to get it to write somewhat long responses and in order for everything to work, again, it will be an awful lot of trial and error. Sometimes you will have to effectively kill the web UI, and you can do that by hitting Control-C. When you Control-C, it will kill the command entirely. That will stop your server, and then reload your launch script. Other times you may be able to just reload the model or unload it and then load it. I have not found a lot of rhyme and reason. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it works for a while, other times it just kind of dies off. But in order to get somewhat longer prompts and somewhat longer responses, changing your max new tokens and truncating the prompt up to a higher level, as well as auto max new tokens, seems to be the best ways to go about speeding things up and making it so that you can get longer prompts. Some other things to note is that we loaded the model with transformers. I have found that this EX-llama HF in general tends to work fairly well, although you will be somewhat limited on the max sequence length. I believe it has to do with the VRAM that it will take up. So we loaded with 10,240 as a max sequence length. Parameters have been updated a bit, so we'll up max new tokens and have auto max new tokens, and let's see if it works. And you'll see we were at a blazing 65 tokens a second. The entire response was 382 tokens. And it generated all that in 5.81 seconds, which is pretty great. So that's it, folks. That's all it takes. That's how you get large language models up and running on your Linux installation with AMD cards using AMD ROCm. And you'll see that the performance is pretty great overall. 65 tokens a second is fast. So I hope this helps, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Have fun playing with your new toys. Bye. Thank you so much for watching my videos, home labbers and engineers. I create and edit all of these videos on my own, so any likes and subscribes will massively help out the channel and allow me to continue creating content to help people. If you got value out of this, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to be notified when new content drops. If there's something I've not covered but you would like to see a video on it, please leave a comment down below. And again, a massive thank you to everyone. I hope you have a great day.